Do you want to summarize the recent research you just did, which I found fascinating? And I also found it very validating because it's what you see again clinically. You had about 136 kids in that SM and comorbidity study that you did. Do you want to discuss some of your highlights?
Right. Basically, we found that 32% of the children had characteristics of ASD, the children who were diagnosed with SM. This is 5 times more than the general population. So the recommendation is whenever you see SM practitioners, professionals, you should really screen for ASD too. One can mask the other, and vice versa. If you see ASD, like you said about Sophie, that you should check for one or the other. A lot of the children have social anxiety, and the way to differentiate a little bit is that the children with ASD had with SM versus the children without ASD who had SM had more motor delays and speech and language disorders and delays. So that's one way, but that's our sample. But I think more importantly is to look at what are the other impairments and neurodevelopmental impairments that the child has, because the proposal that we have is really that SM is just not an anxiety disorder. And I'm going to say it out loud. And I know you agree with me for that. So, and there are some researchers in Europe, to Maurice and Nollendick, who also state that SM is part of a neurodevelopmental disorder, and there's a continuum between ASD, SM, and social anxiety. I would go as far as to say that when we have SM, it's just going back to the beginning, as you said. When we see SM, those are the symptoms, and we're going to work with that. But we need to see what is behind that. And I tell people, why do you think your child developed SM and another child didn't? I have a lot of parents who say, "Oh, I just think that she's being defiant or he's being defiant." And we kind of clarify this to parents. There is something behind it. There is no child who wants to not be speaking at school if they only have SM. If they have ASD, may not have the interest, but a lot of high functioning ASD children, level 1, do want to relate. So they do have the motivation to relate, but they don't know how to go about doing it.
Yeah, it's the
So,
social puzzle. The social puzzle. It's their
yeah,
inability to figure it out and know what to do. And in comment to your study, which again I thought was great, and I think it'll really help the community, is you didn't, in that particular study, I would say that the sensory piece being connected to autism. And again, one of the problems with all these studies, and we saw it with ours as well, because we saw a higher percentage of autism than we did in the general public when we did our studies, and we quite a few years ago, is that this is based on parents. We weren't doing objective autism,
yes.
testing.
And we just,
Right. So I believe it's higher. I actually believe it's a higher percentage
okay.
because I think about the number of families we see at the Smart Center in a year. And then I think about the number that come with SM and autism. And I'm concerned with how many are diagnosed with autism that SM is missed. And so, in other words, I think it's a higher percentage, Vera. We only came up with 4.5% in the study of 1,500 kids. And I think it's actually a little bit higher than that
Yeah,
because I think there's families that just don't realize it and they just don't know what they don't know. And I think if we did actual objective studies, which is definitely something for the future, and we did objective studies on kids with SM, I think we'd find a higher percentage. How do you like that? Again, like you said, level 1, more functioning, because the ones that aren't as functioning, they're very obvious. It's the ones that are teetering on, and again, the differentiation between that social puzzle, the repetitive behaviors, it's very interesting. Yeah, no, this is just amazing. So we
I
talked about.
I just want to mention that Anita Panjwani and Dr. Andy Zimmerman were the co-authors of the study. So just wanted to mention that because it's just not my study.